Hello and welcome to the final part of the results for the James Bond Sound of 2025. It's been an absolute sort of pleasure to do it. It has been a little bit frustrating at times, but it's always fun to do. There has been some significant changes compared to last year. So that's kind of always sort of interesting to compare, and to kind of think why have they significantly gone up. There is a few which I'm surprised are not in the top 10, and now there's even a few which I'm surprised has even made the top 10 because they weren't in the top 10 last year. So I'm going to just carry on. So at number 10 is, wait for it, License to Kill. Michael Kamen's score for License to Kill. This, of course, is the La 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 expanded edition. Now, License to Kill last year was at number 16, so that's gone up 6 places, and I do believe that it could be the fact that it was expanded, because the original 1989 release of that album was a bit higgledy-piggledy. There was a lot of music missing off there. There was a lot of source music, and then obviously we had the License Revoked Q suite, which was just made up of several different parts from that film. So yeah, that was definitely a track, a title that I would have liked to have seen sort of rejigged. Very much like The Spy Who Loved Me. That's another one I would love for them to kind of sort out and kind of represent properly, because I kind of feel that could change if people had kind of heard it properly, like License to Kill. That I believe has changed because we've got the expanded edition and people have just got more of an idea of what's going on in there. I mean, a lot of people do criticise Kamen, saying it's no different to Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. I like it. I absolutely love Kamen's Bond theme arrangement. It's just, it is slightly different, and he has played about with it, and I just love it. I also love the gun barrel sequence. That and Her Majesty's Secret Service, the piece for the gun barrel is my top 2 favourites. But yeah, again, I mean, the gun barrel for License to Kill is totally different, but it works. So yeah, Kamen, I'm kind of sort of happy that it's reached number 10. So yeah, Michael Kamen, License to Kill, number 10. Number 9 is Casino Royale, which, yeah, I'm kind of happy with that because it is an absolute brilliant soundtrack, and it is definitely a good solid effort from David Arnold. As I kind of said previously, Casino Royale is very much sort of the same style as Someone Ever Dies, in the sense that it's very heavily orchestral based. There's very little synthesizers or techno in there, and it's just works very well. I can remember back in the day, 2006, leading up to the release of Casino Royale, David Arnold did an interview and he kind of said that the music for Casino Royale is very similar to Her Majesty's Secret Service, where there's a lot of sort of different themes and stuff, and I kind of get that. I kind of get that with that. Personally, I kind of think that could well be on par with Someone Ever Dies, but according to the vote, it isn't. That's that's higher than Someone Ever Dies. So yeah, Casino Royale, brilliant, iconic title track sung by the late and great Chris Cornell. But yeah, it's a really strong effort from David Arnold. So that's at number 9. Number 8, again, Octopussy. This last year was at number 11, so this is kind of shot up. It's down in the top 10. I don't know. That was the La La expanded edition, so I'm kind of basing it probably the fact that it's been expanded, and there is a lot more music which that was never heard on the original album or the 2003 release. Yeah, it's John Barry. It's any John Barry Bond score is, let's face it, brilliant. Some maybe a little bit better than others. Um, but yeah, Octopussy. It's again, Barry kind of captures that. Um, wherever Bond goes, the music goes with it. He kind of catches that sort of Far East Indian sort of theme. Kind of style and sound, aesthetic. Um, so yeah, then obviously you've got the all time high instrumental and stuff. So yeah, no, that's whether or not I would have put it in the top 10. I don't know, but there is from now on a couple which have made top 10, and I'm kind of a bit surprised because personally, I just wouldn't have expected it to have been there. So yeah, we've got Octopussy at number 8. Number 7, Diamonds Are Forever. Last year this was actually number 8, so this has gone up one. Um, yeah, I mean, it's for me. If I was to go and think, right, I want to listen to a bit of John Barry Bond music, that probably wouldn't be the one I would have picked. Very similar to From Russia with Love. For a long time, I've always kind of argued and well, kind of said that from Thunderball through to Her Majesty's, that was probably John Barry at his peak in terms of Bond, in terms of the Bond sound and the spy jazz. It was I mean, even from Goldfinger maybe, because what I loved was the brass stabs, the brassiness, and makes that's what defines it as Bond music, is when you get the brass, when you get that deep, seductive brass in there, and it wasn't until 2022 when the Odeon Cinema released all the Bond films part of the 60th anniversary. I actually went to see Diamonds Are Forever on the big screen, and the music was actually, and I thought, you know what, this is actually really bombastic, very brassy. I mean, like that of The Man with the Golden Gun, the title theme is probably played a lot, is probably overused a lot. Some people refer to Diamonds as a very loungy Bond. You get the title track played several times throughout, different tempos, different paces, and kind of a lot of instrumentals, which are fantastic. But I do feel that the actual main theme itself's probably been overplayed a little. You've got the Winton Kid theme. The only kind of bit about the Diamonds Are Forever soundtrack, which never sat with me, is the music that accompanies the Moon Buggy Chase in the Desert. It just seems, I mean, it just seems very odd. It's not the typical kind of Bond music you would think. If you heard it, I don't think you'd immediately think of Bond. It just seems a little bit very jarring and a little bit, different to what we've had before. I mean, but otherwise, you've got some brilliant tracks on there. I mean, there's the 007 and Counting. That's a favourite of mine. And then yeah, is that that's, and then is that the one where Barry kind of plays on the sort of capsule in space from You Only Live Twice? He kind of, I mean, Barry was very good at creating space music. Now, when in Midnight Cowboy, there's a scene in there where they're in the cinema and they're watching some movie, and I think John Voight is getting wanked off or something, and the despite what's going off, the music's really good. It's kind of very similar to what he did in Diamonds, and again, it was space related. So it's just a beautiful bit of music. It's kind of, yeah. So yeah, I can't describe it, but you'd have to sort of, if you've got the Midnight Cowboy soundtrack, I think the track itself's called Sci-Fi or something, but it's just a really cool, chilled out piece, and I think that one might be. I think that's very similar to in Diamonds Are Forever when Blofeld's laser is sort of starting to cause havoc, and there's a kind of a really cool, chilled piece of music that goes with that. So yeah, Diamonds. I'm kind of surprised that both Diamonds and Octopussy are in the top 10. Um, but yeah, and I'm even surprised that the next one is in the top 10 for Your Eyes Only, because last year this was a number 13. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've got no issue with this soundtrack as such. I just wouldn't have thought it would have been worthy of number 10. Well, in the top 10, but this is down to what the members of Hildebrand have voted for. So good on you. I mean, that's obviously Bill Conti. It's what amazes me is that every time we have a new composer, which isn't John Barry, comes into the world of Bond, their sound is totally, utterly different to what Barry would have done. I mean, the great what if and speculation is what would For Your Eyes Only have sounded like if John Barry had done the score. All I can probably think is, probably go back to his music that he did for High Road to China and Raise the Titanic, because that was sort of 1980, 81 era. So that'll probably give you a little bit of an idea of the direction and style he was kind of going for. But For Your Eyes, I mean, Bill Conti, again, fantastic gun barrel. There is some good pieces on there. There's a lot of, I mean, the action pieces, he definitely likes a bit of a disco vibe. I mean, if anything, it kind of sounds like music from a 1980s porn movie. But yeah, I mean, I think Submarine, that's always a favourite of mine. But yeah, it's different. And yeah, that's all. It's different. I don't dislike it. It's just personally, I'm just surprised it's actually number 7 and number 6, and it is where it is. But yeah, so For Your Eyes Only at number 6, number 5, which is a massive improvement. Well, not massive. Last year it landed at number 9. Is Moonraker. Now, again, I believe that this may have been a lot to do with the fact that it's expanded. I've got to say that is probably, out of all the La La Land records, that is probably the most one I've listened to. It's just fucking awesome. Simple as. And Moonraker is been considered by many John Barry fans and Bond fans that Moonraker, Living Daylights and Majesties are, 3 of his best, are his top 3. But yeah, I mean, that one is definitely gave justice to the original recording we had, because there's only 10 tracks on there, and it was only Bond soundtrack, which didn't feature the Bond theme. So yeah, it was a very odd arrangement at the time, but thankfully we've got it expanded. And yeah, I mean, there's some absolutely beautiful themes on there. Especially all his, all the music that he does for the space scenes. And what I love about that is so the thing with the Moonraker one is there's a lot of music on there which wasn't seen in the film because for whatever reason they kind of edited it and cut it out. And I think that's probably going to be the similar issue with the Thunderball CD, to be fair. There's on the La La Land, there's going to be bits which weren't in the film because they've cut it out for some reason. So there's stuff on there which we've never heard of, and it's just incredible. So I mean, the favourite one on that is the music that accompanies the gondola chase through Venice. Now in the film, we have I can't remember the name, but it's a famous classical piece. Just as Bond's going across the square in the gondola, a famous classical piece is heard. That was obviously added in later. Whilst John Barry had wrote it, he'd actually wrote the Bond theme for it, which was then replaced by this classical score. But the Bond theme that's on there, I mean, I said this when I first reviewed Moonraker. He kind of made the Bond theme sound Italian, and you've got to kind of listen to it to kind of know what I mean. So yeah, that's one of the highlights. I mean, everything about it's just a beautiful score. So yeah, for it to be number 5, that's I think that, you know, is very well deserved. The next one is Goldfinger. And this is a number 4. Goldfinger last year came out. It was just Kem, but I think it was number 11. So this is also gone up some. And again, I think, you know, it's worthy. Goldfinger, you know, it is a classic. Well, not only the film but the score as well. It was obviously, you know, John Barry's favourite score. It was a score where everything came together. You know, he had total control. He did the theme, you know, the title song and everything. And you know, compared to From Russia with Love, you know, that's where he established the Bond sound. You know, he got his feet truly on the ground. And to say there's a year difference between From Russia with Love and that was his second Bond film, it's amazing how he just got the Bond sound to a T. You know, I don't think it was intended, but he just got it. You know, he knew what to do and when to do it. So Goldfinger being at number 4, I think is very well deserved. So, and again, that's the La La release. Unfortunately, that wasn't expanded. But still, more on that later on another episode. Number 3 is The Living Daylights. So this had come number 1 last year. This has now come number 3. Again, I mean, you know, again, I mean, yes, when it came number 1 last year, it deserved to be number 1. What number 1 is this year, it still deserves to be number 1. So yeah, The Living Daylights are number 3. It's in the top 3. It's, again, you know, considered to be, you know, one of Barry's best, and it is an absolutely beautiful listen. You've got 3 themes in there. You've got The Living Daylights, Where Has Everybody Gone, and If There Was a Man. That is beautifully incorporated into the score. It was, to my knowledge, probably the second time John Barry had used synthesizers, and he kind of liked to use synthesizers when he was introducing a new Bond. He first used synthesizers in Her Majesty's with the Moog synthesizer. He then used it again for The Living Daylights. However, it does seem a little bit dated. You know, the synthesizers and stuff that was used does seem a little bit dated now. But obviously at the time, it would have been pretty good. Number 2 is Thunderball. And yes, this is the La La Land. It has just come today. I have not yet opened it, but I can assure you that I will get my balls absolutely soaking later to listen to this, because I can't fucking wait. So yes, this is at number 2. Ironically, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that was never announced when Thunderball came up on the poll to vote for. But even that, I'd had number 2, and that's based on the original recordings that we got before the expanded. But Thunderball. I've always liked the score. It's, you know, a perfect example well, probably the first, From Rush with Love, John Barry managed to take it to where Bond was going. What I loved about From Rush with Love is there's a track on there which accompanied the train sequence, and he just captured the sound of the train. Da 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 da. That's like the motions of the wheels. Thunderball, obviously, most of the it's heavily set underwater. John Barry famously said that if you to score music for water, you never use brass or bass. You just use strings and woodwind, and it worked. When you listen to that, you can almost hear the bubbles, and yeah, it just takes you there. You've got two cracking songs, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Thunderball. So yeah, Goldfinger, Barry found his place. Thunderball, he was totally established. He was, he kind of got it to a T. So yes, Thunderball is at number 2, but that's not even based. I mean, I don't even know where it'll probably go next year when people start basing it on the expanded edition, because there's a hell of a lot of material on that, to be fair. And number 1 is Her Majesty's Secret Service. This had come number 2. Oh, sorry, Thunderball came number 4 last year. This had come number 2. And Living Daylights was number 1. So this year, 2025, James Bond sound off. You have voted for Her Majesty's Secret Service, and when I've counted all the votes up, that's come out at number 1. And so it should as well, because it's a fucking classic. And again, that it was never, when Her Majesty's came up on the group for you to vote, it was way before the expanded edition was announced. So that's obviously based on either the original vinyls or original recordings, or the 2003 Lucas Kendall version, whichever version you've got. So yeah, Her Majesty's, I mean, as I said earlier, that was the first Bond soundtrack where Barry used Moog synthesizers, and oddly enough, that doesn't seem dated, whereas A Living Daylights, when he's used synthesizers on there, it does sound very dated. But no, Her Majesty's Secret Service, you've got the main theme plus the love theme we have all the time in the world. Barry had always said that he kind of had to really work on the music to try and emphasise the fact that Sean Connery wasn't Bond. So the music had to kind of make up, well, sort of help George Lazenby, I suppose, to come along. But yeah, it's absolutely, an incredible score. There's some really beautiful pieces on there. So yeah, the fact that it is at number 1, it's well deserved. And personally, I don't think really that until I carry on, as long as I continue doing these James Bond sound off, I don't think that's ever gonna steer away from the top 5. Next year, based on the expanded edition of Moonraker, that might be number 1. Who knows? But I certainly don't think Her Majesty's is going to really drop. It's definitely. I think it's going to be in the top 5, because I don't know how you can better that. Because obviously, when the next Bond film comes out, when they bring in the next composer, that composer is going to be constantly judged, engaged against John Barry. And obviously nobody's ever really matched him. Yes, David Arnold's probably got the closest. And the score for No Time to Die, for me, was pretty much close. But that's not, down to the fact that he used We Have All the Time in the World and there's a bit of Her Majesty's in there. It was just generally, on other tracks there was a little bit of the Bond brass and a little bit of the Bond sound and the Bond theme. So yeah, I think Her Majesty's is generally going to, take a bit of beating. I think it's going to be, hanging around for within the top 5 at least. I don't think it's ever going to steer away from that. So anyway, that is it, the final part for the James Bond Sound Off 2025. Thank you all for participating. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to do, and it's been interesting to see how things have kind of moved position. So anyway, I'm now going to listen to my new Thunderball CD, and I will be back again. Not too sure what I'll talk about. I'm sure there'll be something to talk about. But anyway, I will be back. Thank you.